All right. And we are live, and hopefully y'all can hear me okay. I am Sarah Scruggs, and we're picking up from last week where we were working on a VFX level tree. I did some work after we left. We didn't quite get finished with what we were working on there. It was seasons. And hello, everybody. Got a few people wandering over in here. So what I've done from since last week on this tree is I've gone ahead and finished up our seasons. I added a second leaf set in here. I think we were getting trouble with it, so I've got one for each color. And then went ahead and applied the seasons and then stuck those guys back on the tree. And what we're going to be focusing on this week is making a games tree out of a VFX tree. And this is not something that all of you guys will be doing, but we have a lot of people doing visualization and stuff like that for where they're doing a render with their new trees and then they need to pop it into a game engine. And so I thought it would be fun to show how we actually reduce our extremely high poly trees, which are in the 3 million range, to something more for a game engine. So we're going to make this into a hero level games tree at about 50,000 polygons. And the first thing I ever do with the game tree stuff is work on clusters. Clusters are going to be the main difference in a game tree. For a VFX tree, if you were to look at these guys, we have individual leaves. And on the games tree, they are made of leaf cards. So we've got multiple leaves saved into a flat image that we're going to send out from SpeedTree. So the very first thing I do, and I'm just going to unfocus that for a second, is I'm in the Cinema Modeler right now. I'm going to see my new games folder here. And we are going to open up the Games Modeler, which I already have it open. All right, and this is just what we're going to be working on. And for games, make sure we got that. We've got a lot going on in here. We added detail last week. I've got Twigs in here. That is all really nice and everything, but we won't be able to keep that on a game tree. We'll have to recreate some of that. And the easiest way to make a cluster is not to start a new file, but to just use this VFX file and go ahead and make it into your cluster file. So we're going to save yet another one and keep it open. This one's going to be our cluster. And I like to make 2 sets of clusters for my hero trees, and I'll get to that in just a second. So I'm going to say this is cluster 1. We are going to find a branch that we like to be our cluster file. And so got some good action going in there. I'm going to pick maybe about 3 tiers back and click the focus. And all a cluster file is it's in the window mode and it's in viewport and XY plane. And this is going to put us above our tree. And we want to make our file with our branch facing out this direction. And apparently my video is catching up to you guys. Let me see if I can fix that. I got a couple more people rolling in. It's nice to see everybody. Hello. Well, I might have a laggy video, and hopefully that doesn't disrupt you guys too much. Okay, so the Art Director tool for making a cluster is super, super handy for just moving stuff around. If you remember, all this procedural stuff is still here, and so I will be node editing, and I can pretty much do whatever I want to this. To make it less cluttered and a little easier to use, instead of keeping all that procedural stuff in there, I'm going to get out a lot of the branches and just use this one. I'm just going to say instead of interval for this big main branch, I'm going to change it to absolute. And my leaves stayed in there because I guess I have to... There we go. Now we got it back. Oh, that looks like it's the extension off the top instead of the one that I really want. I'm gonna move modes just one back in perspective mode for a second there. Okay, So first thing we want to do is our normal matters when we're making our textures. So we really want this main branch to be more parallel to the ground. I like to have this force already added in here. I go ahead and add planar in right from the beginning because I'm going to be using that a lot for these branches out here. Now, I was kind of lucky because this tree has the branches that are, they were coming out. I think I have it on phyllotaxy alternating anyways. They were pretty parallel with the ground. We want some movement in there because we're going to get the normal of those branches. We're still at too many leaves though. I put back and window layout, sorry, viewport, XY plane. And we're going to zoom in right here to our tree branch. Now, Speed Tree 9 has a really neat, we don't have to worry about that because that's going to get cut out. Freehand mode that's going to let me bend this around. And the great thing about making my cluster file is that I can have all the polygons in the world and have all the node edits in the world because I don't need to randomize this. It's just going to be what my texture looks like for our games tree. So we're going to get started on just shaping this branch. Right from the get-go, a lot of people have trouble just figuring out how many leaves to actually put on your games cluster. And what I'm going to build first is a stick structure that's going to be holding the rest of my tree on a, so we need a bare one first. And then I'm going to do a bigger cluster that has probably like anywhere from 10 to 15 leaves on it. And then we're going to do a small detail cluster that will be the tips, and that will be held onto the tree with anchors. So I really probably have too much going on in there. So I'm going to hide some of these guys for right now and just get the twigs correct. And you see I got a couple different barks in there because they get dark, and I think that's kind of neat to have on for this file. I'm going to use the bend tool right now in freehand mode. We're going to have a little gizmo on this guy. You can just drag this guy up and down and grab the globe, whatever we call that at the end, to bend that back and forth. If I was in the regular screen space mode, this works as well. If I want to make that bend really sharp, I make this area a little smaller and I can make it do crazy things. For this guy, we don't want to get too crazy. I'm going to kind of like bend out what I did because it's a little too harsh there. We're going to relax it a little bit. Now that we have that main thing in there, I'm going to change up the structure of the inside a little bit. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that because I think he was in the way. These guys are going to, you'll notice I'm in node mode right now because I'm in freehand mode. So in order to get back to my regular properties, I have to go to the generator mode again. Okay, the first thing that I want to notice is you can, you want to pay attention to your screen area when you're doing this. You can go to window properties and do screenshot safe frame. And I'm going to have the same aspect. I'm making a square texture. I'm going to make it a little bigger, but it doesn't really matter because it's going to be whatever you export it as. And then I'm going to show that, and it's going to give me this nice little red guideline so I know exactly what it's going to spit out. I don't want the split in there, so I'm just going to go ahead and hide it. And then bring that back into view, and so it looks like I'm going to bend this back up straight again. I love this tool. I hope you guys like it when you get it. It's going to be in version 9. It just makes everything just fast, easy. Alright, I'm going to see if I've got any questions going on, because I can't read and model at the same time. Not yet. And I'm sitting on my feet. Alright, now that we got that, we're going to put some more polygons in these little branches down here because they are ugly and you can see little triangle bits in there. And before I go farther, I'm just going to hit save It's good to do, especially on these guys. We are going to go to gen mode and go to segment count, and I can have all the segments in the world. So I'm going to soup this up and keep going there. One of the things that I like about this tree is on the connections, there are these little knobs, and then the leaf sits in there. So it's just kind of a fun alternating pattern. And so we're going to kind of do the same thing. I've got these guys set on Gin, Violet, Taxi opposite right now. I think I'm just going to put them on alternating and make sure that they're not spiral, or they were rotated around the branch a little bit. They really weren't doing as well there. Kind of want to spread them out a little bit. That if you don't like where a node is, you can actually click this branch and I went into node mode just now. I pushed the tap mode there, but you can grab this now. And it doesn't seem to be working right now, but that works. The art director's there, so you can slide these branches up and down if you don't feel like doing it procedurally. And I don't want this to overlap, so I'm gonna actually go back in node mode and kind of just change this around and grow things out so that, whoop, and we got a crash, and that's okay. It happens sometimes. This is the beta version, so we are going to just a second to get back up and running. I pinned only the cinema mode. I see we've got a question coming in, and I'll read it in just a second. I got a question about Vertex Colors that just came in. You can definitely paint on each individual mesh when you get done, and you can also paint in the freehand mode on the tree itself. So if you're doing custom wind, we added a lot of stuff for that in V9 that will be available. And my window changed size on me. We'll just get that back up. We're back. Sorry about that, guys. And we're going to got it back on the taskbar now, and we can keep going. So I might have lost some of those edits, but that's okay. We're gonna go back into the segment count and add them again, smooth these guys out just like we did before. These are fine. I think I'm gonna get rid of some of the zigzagging that we've got going on there. And so I'm gonna go to spine, and I'm going to turn down the amount of late noise that I have going on there. We'll add some shape back in. I just feel like it's a little too. That was what got me crashed last time. I was just trying to add something to the menu, but that happens. And we're back on track. All right, we want to go ahead and shape these guys a little bit the way we would like them. And I'm going to end up adding some little knots just like we saw a second ago. And I'm going to do that with the radius profile curve. It's going to make all of them do sort of the same thing. I like to make my cluster files have the twigs on the inside just be a little bit thicker than they actually are in real life, so that they show up. It's just a real thin, and you've got a opacity map that's going to be cutting your textures out. And so you want to make sure that these little feathery twigs don't get lost in the image. So these will actually get a little bigger in the end. And my leaves are going to get a little bit bigger than they were on the tree as well. I'm going to go ahead and turn that first set back on. Now for the leaves, we want to make sure that they are orienting sky facing up first. And so the directions that I had them on the tree before aren't going to work for me. So I'm going to X out some of these values and just show you what I would do from start. Sometimes it's easier, you know, people really struggle with getting the leaves the right orientation and where they need to go on the tree and all that. And if you've been working on these guys and you need them to be a certain direction, just it's so much easier just to wipe and start from scratch so you can think through the processes. The properties for leaves are actually meant to be in order. So you want to start with the local orientation and then move to the next steps. It's kind of built-in system there, so you can get the shape and still kind of manage to think about it the whole time. So in cluster files, I always have sky influence on. I want the normals facing all one side. We don't want any back-facing normals when we're sending out a texture. So these guys are gonna get a little bigger. And because I had a weight on the tree, or I guess that was on that second tree, I've got a lot of the leaf 2 showing up. I'm gonna put this in the right season just to make sure for a second that we are in spring. There we go. This guy needs to get closed at the end because it wasn't looking too good there. And I'm gonna make these a little thicker. And we're gonna put a couple more of the twigs on the inside there. I think we just need to adjust these a little bit with how many are on there. I think I'm gonna move this to just 2 branches and then change up the length between them so I can have something more like that in there, the little crisscrossing. And then I'm gonna get rid of some of the extra twigs. We just don't need them. I'm gonna maybe just knock them out for time. And for the size of the cluster that I'm going to be making, I think my leaves are okay. They're all sort of the same size though, and that is boring. So we are going to change that up just a little bit more than they are. Maybe want to make the tips a little smaller just because. And got lots of messages in here. Someone is asking, could we purchase cinema trees off the Speed Tree store and optimize it for the games? And you absolutely can. You can take advantage of the fact that all those textures are there and they're the highest resolution that we offer. So it's a great way if you see a species that we do not have in the games version. This would be the steps you would take to make it work in Unreal Engine or Unity or Lumberyard. Left one out. And then we got a thank you, Adriana. That was very sweet. Yes. And I just wanted to add that we do take species. We've got like a list and we're tackling that list. I'm gonna drop a lot of these species on you come with the launch, and I'm really excited about that. Been working on a bold cypress, which are just local around here. It's one of my favorite trees. They have like the coolest bottoms on them. Gonna go ahead and turn my other set of leaves on, and they're teeny tiny because I didn't make them larger. We're gonna make those guys big again, and there's way too many of them, and you'll notice they just popped out because I have collision on right now. Just for setting this up for right now, I'm going to turn it off. And now I've got way too many leaves. So it's always better to look at your leaf and construct everything with collision off so that you can see exactly how many you have on there. And so I spaced these guys way, 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 way out. I'm gonna make sure that they are sky facing. Sky influence is all the way on for them. I'm gonna take off fold and coral for a second. And so I just have too many leaves here, and we have a special type of collision that is for clusters. Cluster plane is so that we don't want these to overlap too much because it's going to cut down on the amount of light that can come through here. Your ideal cluster is going to be kind of spaced out leaves that don't do a lot of overlap. Someone was saying that there are more cinema trees than game trees. That's probably correct. It's actually fairly balanced. Cinema trees take less time to make than the game trees, and the reason for that is setting all of the LODs, and then this part right here is super time consuming because each tree needs its own species cluster there. So we're gonna keep going, and I'm gonna just keep knocking these out. I just have too many leaves on a tree still. Phyllotaxy. I'm just gonna increase the length, the amount of space between them. That's not too bad. Still just got too much going on in here. I'm just gonna knock them out. And I think we're gonna even make them a little bigger. Okay, so now that we've got this going, we need to get rid of the overlap. I'm just going to move into node mode real fast and use the art tool to bend what I need to move. And someone is asking about copying and pasting, and what I addressed in the beginning of this is that it's way easier to start with a file where you have all of your stuff loaded in and just save another file. If you want to copy and paste your generators, you can grab them like this and do Control-C, and then Control-X will paste them back in the scene. You can do that across SBMs as well. So if you did need to reconstruct something, you can do it that way. Accidentally messed up my focus there because I wasn't thinking. And I'm really just working on shape now. I've got this kind of outside of the bounding box, and so I'm going to zoom that in a little bit. And there's probably a little too much going on in this cluster. I'm just gonna get rid of what I don't want. One thing. Okay. We're gonna keep going with the camera off. Seems to fix some of the streaming issues, and I don't seem to have all of the feed coming in, but it looks like the chat's gonna jump back in. So streaming is a mystery to me, but hopefully we'll get better as we keep going. And so we are going to just work on shaping this again, and it looks kind of like a grapevine right now. I want it to look more like a actual tree that we're working on. So we're going to take a second to look at the structure of the actual leaf with little knobbies, and we want them to be coming out like that. And my leaf somehow got... I'm going to take a look at the cutout for this just a second. And because we are in the cluster, we can add a couple more triangles to this, and I'm gonna just tessellate a little bit, and because I'm getting greedy there, I'm gonna add that highest one on there, and that's gonna let us do some more when we get into deformation. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the other leaf, which is that guy. And we just want to add just a couple more in there. And there we have it. Now, I've got these short little twigs going off there, and I really don't know if I need these or not. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off and look at it without all that in there, and it looks like I have too much variation, and I need to make these a little bigger. And I really want these guys to be, okay. I'll try to adjust my volume a little bit there. So I liked on that leaf where it's coming off the twig. So I'm just going to recreate that with the little twigs instead of having them on here. So if I can keep these leaves, they can hang out, still be friends. And looks like I'm getting more of this one than the other. I don't know if that's an illusion or not. I'm going to like weight that in there, get some of the other one in there. And spring 2 is leaf. It's on the right cutout. Okay, just making sure we were back on track there. Make them a little bit more random. Okay, so we're gonna start by making these twigs. I'm not sure that these twigs are actually very good for what we need them to do, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start from scratch and add a regular just branch template real fast. And so I've got one little guy on there. I'm gonna take out the noise for a second on it and just totally wipe these out. I should have just added a 2, but it would have been a little easier to see. I'm gonna hide these leaves for a second so you can see exactly what I'm doing. On branch 4, I'm gonna put these guys on here as interval, and I want 2 on each side of the branch there. And I'm going to make them a little more frequent. Hang on, my computer's got to catch up with me. It's working a lot. Always good to do a little save in there just to make sure you don't lose your work. And all right, so this is going to hold our leaves. So these are going to be really, really short. And instead of doing the percent of the parent, I'm just going to take out that amount. I'll leave a little variation in there, but I'm going to make it an absolute amount instead. These guys are going to be holding the leaf like that. I'm going to use, remember we added planar in the beginning? I'm going to use planar just to make sure that they are, I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Planar. To make sure they are aligned with the rest of the branches. And the start angle right now is not quite right. We want them to be a little bit more shallower up to the branch. And there we go. Okay, so right now these are across from each other, and we really want them to be spaced out. Got the spread on halfway, so this is opposite. We just put the spread on all the way and see if we can get some variation in there. And I'm just gonna put a few more in there. I'm gonna change that first and last a little bit because I really want to fill in some towards the bottom. Okay, that's probably a little too many, but that's fine for right now. And to give this just a little bit of shape, make sure that we have at least a couple segments in there. I'm going to use Ancestor to pull it towards the end of the branch. And I'm going to say that I want this the opposite direction. I want the tip to be pulled out. So I'm going to go linear growth like that. And that just gives it a nice little like bloop shape. It's actually maybe possibly the wrong direction. So what we're gonna do is add a little bit of variation in that amount that we just added. So they're kind of doing different curves. And we are going to add a single leaf. I'm gonna change the skin to make this all the way fat to the end. And we're gonna add a single leaf to the end of each of these guys. I'm just copying the one that we had before just because it's a little faster to get it all set up. Too many leaves. All right, so these we want to appear only at the end of the branch, and we actually can just do an extend parent and not worry about having any of these on here. So we're gonna make this absolute, and we'll put a 0 in here because the extension is on, and so that will give me exactly one leaf at the end of this little branch, and it's sort of acting as the leaf stem. It's just making sure I'm still connected, and thank you, Sean. Okay, we're starting to look a little crazy. We want to get rid of that. Look there. See how those extra leaves fill in. So we still got so many leaves going on in there. And on the skin tab, this leaf's just looking kind of fat to me. It's like a little shape. So I'm gonna use the scale and actually scale it down a little bit, just to match. It makes that other leaf really skinny, but I think it kind of adds something once we start getting these twisted up. And there's some deformation on these guys, just so you can see a completely flat leaf to start, and then we'll start adding these guys in. So I still want to knock these guys out. I think that these little branches here need to be a little bigger at the bottom of the branch and a little smaller at the top, and I guess they just made that a little too shallow. And I really think that these are throwing us off a little bit as well. I might need to be changing that up. I guess I changed part of that. I'm gonna make sure that they are kind of in line with the rest of the branch too. Let's see if that helps straighten us out a little bit. So, okay, finally getting somewhere. It looks like we've got a nice little branch shape going here. We still got too many layers in here. We're gonna start shaping these guys because they'll knock each other out pretty naturally. And so what we're gonna do is grab the leaf mesh. I keep getting little notifications popping up and I made these, so I'm just trying to go with it. Hey, Thomas. We're actually using Thomas's scan. This is Aspen scan at the bottom of this tree. Okay, I lost track of what I was doing, but we are going to shape these guys up a little bit. So we're gonna finally do the fold and curl. And we want just pretty much random amounts of each of these, and to give it a little shape. One of the things that curl is gonna do, since we added all those polygons in there, is in the material normal. Take a second. If we, excuse me, back to the leaf. So changing the actual shape is going to give us detail normals, and then changing the lighting settings are going to change our normals a little bit. So we want to do the deformation first, so we can kind of check that out. I like to really change up the shape a little bit and make these kind of fold through each other. And then after I'm done with this part, I will use the cluster collision to knock out the ones that are overlapped. I need not only different sizes in the skin, but I'm gonna change the scaling on these just a little bit with some random variants in there as well to shake up. I think that's a little extreme there. We don't want so pointy. And I might have gotten a little aggressive with that guy. It might work a little bit better if I just change up the variants a little bit. See if we can get something slightly different to break up the repetition in there. The vertex, just to crinkle it up a little bit, make some irregular shapes. And also in the orientation, I'm just gonna put a little bit of different up, down, right, and out in there so that they're not all facing the same direction. And I really want the ones coming off of these little twigs to be fairly straight out. So I don't want to destroy how they're turning or anything too badly. And I think this just really is too long. There we go. I'm gonna go back into our standard mode now and see if I can get rid of the leaves that I don't want, since I've changed them to a leaf mesh now. Make sure. I can't see all of the comments coming in. I guess like the other stream might have killed them for me. So hopefully Speech Create Team's got y'all going pretty good. I'm gonna go into node mode and we are just gonna hit the delete key on some of these guys and get rid of the ones we don't want. So I kind of got cluttery in here. And we can turn these and get them exactly where we want. I'll try to move fast. It's hard to make art on the spot. So, all right, that little overlap, I kind of like that it folded there. We kind of take this one and kind of mess it up a little bit. Make sure. And still going to move that guy out a little bit. Just delete. I'm just going to kind of be aggressive with my deleting that we've got here. I'm going to hit save again just to make sure we're still in good shape. Don't like that guy. Don't like that guy. You lose today. It's kind of fun. God mode with deleting leaves. I just kind of crinkle them up some. That guy is just a little too perfect there. And I don't want to cut into the stem, but I can just lift that guy up or make it a little smaller or something and get it out of the way. That kind of works. Going behind there is kind of a neat look. Why not? This guy is cute, but kind of in the way. Got a little overlap there. Gonna get rid of that guy, the one underneath there. And I like him. He can stay. Why not? Don't know what was going on in there, but all this overlap is too much. And so it's a little time consuming. Sorry about that. We'll try to get it ready to go so that we can get it all right. So I got these little pieces here, and I'm just gonna keep going with these, and then I'm gonna start adding the twig details onto here so that we can have just a little extra goodness. And one of the things I like to do is add our decorative generators, which, wow, that ran all together as a generator. Decorator generators, hard to say all at once. I'm just gonna add some lumps in here, and we're gonna treat these like little knots on where the actual twigs come out. So just add that on there. And I added it on. I selected the wrong one. That wasn't what I meant to do. We're gonna do this again. All right, lumps. And it's on absolute one. We want more than one. We can go nuts with these. We're gonna make them really big because we can, and offset them a little bit. And now I've got some like weird little chunk detail things going on in there. I'm gonna kind of switch up the sides just a little bit just to make them that. And then I'm gonna do the same thing, but on these little twigs, I'm gonna put, I'm just gonna copy paste real fast. There we go. On the little inside twigs, I'm gonna put them on, but I'm going to make them generation style, excuse me, bifurcation. No, I did the wrong. I'm supposed to be selecting the lump. The lump needs to be on bifurcation. There we go. And I put a ton of them on there. Let's just make them a little bigger so we can see them, but we don't need all that. We're gonna go back to the gen style and just balance that out a little bit. And then I'm trying to get them more on the bent parts. I really just don't want them way down at the bottom like that. Just bumped them up a little bit. And is that kind of weird? We're going to twig details. And on these little guys here that are holding the leaves, my stem and my leaf are different colors, and I think that they're so tiny that it's not going to be that big of a deal. But I am going to make those a little bit different. Meant to be in mode. On the stems themselves, I'm going to make the end and actually do like the twig shape thing there. I'm going to make them a little thicker, and I don't have them clamped because they're not welded. I guess they are welded if I want them. I'm going to shape that little piece there. I'm going to zoom in just so you can see what I'm doing. Just for a little extra, because we can, to make it look more like a stem. Okay, and it's so tiny, and no one will ever appreciate the fact that you went in there and made that little detail to make it look more twig-like, but I enjoy doing little things like that just to make them look extra organic. I'm in node mode here. I'm going to do the same thing with this branch here. I'm going to take that skin and just shape up the end a little bit. And it just felt like it needed a little difference there. And okay, we're in pretty good shape. This leaf is just not I might have spawned some more on accident because they switched up again. If you're deleting leaves, just keep in mind that it is a node edit. So if you end up making a new calculation or moving a branch, then you're gonna have the leaves pop back up. So that's sort of something you do at the end, and it'll help you out in the long run. All right, we are gonna see what this looks like on the tree. So we're gonna go ahead and send one out just to get a feel for what we're making here. And I wanted to crop that little dookie out there. This is going to be our summer main. And we've got about 5 more minutes to go for today. The next video that we do is going to be creating the actual tree for games. So we focus on making the textures this time, and I'm going to bring you to the end of that, and then we'll pick up right where we started next week, and we will actually build out that games tree. So we did spend a long time on the boring part, but we made some progress. All right, so I get this where I want it. I'm going to go File, and then we're going to Export Material. And I'm just going to leave these at 2K. That's fine for game. You could make them a little bigger if you want. If you want to make a 4K map, that's fine too. But I'm just going to make a smaller one. I did not do a lot of PBR edits on this, and so I can tell you right off the bat that my lighting needs to be tweaked. We might have to get into that a little bit next week, unless I just keep going. I mean, we have time. We're not on a strict schedule if we want to keep going. But I'm just going to show you what it looks like to start with or whatever. And it's got all the maps that you need. So if you need something other than the color opacity normal gloss that we use, like say you want to use a roughness, you can just select that in there. And we're going to hit OK. And we're going to save this out to our tree folder. Should have had that in there. This is my clusters folder. I like to keep my folders super organized, so I keep the SPM file out here, and then I have bark, clusters, leaves, and then the mesh that it's in there. We're gonna have a new games mesh in there too, clusters, and we're gonna be making new ones for the silver birch because these are some that we made a long time ago. But we are going to do this is my big cluster, and I've got a question coming in about the mesh cutout. I think what you're asking about is if you have like an atlas texture that has more than one leaf on it, yes, you can cut that out. You can make as many as you need. I can show you that in just a second. This is going to save out. This is going to be my main cluster, and so I like to just kind of, I don't really need that to be in there, but I'm going to say main, cluster 1, and this is going to be spring. We'll probably go over a little bit on time, but I'm just going to keep going with that. Just to answer that question, these are the single leaf. If you had an atlas one, we actually have a video of that where I'm building up a games tree using an atlas. We used a Quixel map, and you have to cut out the individual sections. So if you were going to do that and you wanted 2 cutouts in there, all you need to do is add a second one. Like that, and then you'd hit edit, and so you would cut out your first one, which would be a smaller area there, and then you would just save out your leaf number 2 would be right here, and you would save that out. And then on the material, I don't actually want to save that right now. We'll probably do like a tree tutorial where we are using atlases and how to cut out different sections for that. On the material there, if you notice that you have mesh any, and right now this is going to select any of the meshes that I have, sort of a Mod Podge. So if I had 6 cutouts of leaves in there, I would get a random amount of them selected in there, and then primary is going to be the first one that you cut out. Hope that answers. Yep. Okay, so we're gonna go back to our tree and open that games bin that we saved out that we didn't actually work on or anything, but it's still there. I'm wondering if the camera is back on, if it's gonna mess us up there. Is the stream still live, or is that to kill it? I might have missed, okay, looks like I cannot have my camera on to keep going. I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay, and I think I missed part of that question there. You were asking if the cutouts, if we can actually select all these and move them together, and I believe, I can't remember, I thought we could control click those, but apparently we can't. For right now, you would need to copy from here. So if you need to grab one of these meshes and throw it in there like that, that would be the only way to move all those meshes, the mesh points, all at once. We could put that in as a request though. That might not be very unhandy. You can copy these guys and paste them too. Like if you've made these guys, you would go to the mesh toolbar right here, and you can actually copy these guys to your clipboard. So if you have an up mesh and you want to copy, you can hit that. Okay. Since we didn't do any work on there, we have our not game resolution tree. First thing I would do is you can't be attached to your VFX tree whatsoever. So we're going to take all of this and maybe not that far up. Let's just get rid of our twigs. And still way too much going on. So we're going to go ahead and collapse what we don't need. We're not going to be able to have these little side twigs like this possibly. And so we are just going to collapse and turn them off for right now. And these main twigs are going to stay. And these guys are probably going to get rid of a lot of them. So we'll just go ahead and kill these. Kill these. The plant gods have not been merciful. Okay. And we still have way too many branches for what we need for a games tree. We're going to start taking these off. I like to make this first set of branches that I've got up in here my frond holders. And to do that, I'm going to add a frond to the end. I tried to read that question for a second there. So, file tabs as a question. Someone is asking, are we going to move the tabs to a different spot? And I think we touched on this last week, but it's kind of neat, and I'll retouch on it again. I was in the middle of looking for fronds, sorry about that. You have a favorites now, so if there's something that you like, and you always want to come to it, like say you always want to be able to have the radius per se, you can right click this property and add it to your favorites, and you now have this last tab in here. So you're gonna be able to put the things that you use all the time in this last tab for easy access. Our system here, when we go through something, is all of your creation and adding stuff to the tree is going to be, I forgot I had collision on and it just disappeared there. All, you know, the numbers and how everything is put on the tree is going to be in your gen mode, and then you're going to move to spine. So these are set up in the order that you build, sort of, and they are sort of integrated. They've been in this order for as long as Speed Tree's been alive for the most part. I've got questions coming in, but I can't handle too much at once. Okay, I'm going to keep going just for the sake of time so we can wrap up for the today. I just wanted to show you that material we just made. And what I did not make was a bare leaf, which we want to do as well. I'm going to take this exact same thing and hide the leaves. And we're going to send this out as a base. So I'm going to go File, Export Material. Okay, and this is going to be our bear. We're gonna go back to the games tree. We're gonna bring it into our materials tab. We're gonna grab the one that we just made. Cluster folder, and I'm gonna bring in that bear branch first. You're gonna notice automatically we want two-sided on, and we're gonna put this on the frond. You can drag and drop it, or you can select it. And right off the bat, that's kind of funky looking. There we go. It's a little smaller than it needed to be. Like, I really, if I had done that correctly, should have zoomed in so I didn't waste all this texture space. But for the sake of showing you, we're just gonna go with it. It looks bad right now because it doesn't have a mesh on it. So we are going to edit that and add that in. And we added a couple of new things in here so you can see better. I like that better when I'm doing a clear one, just because I probably would have added some thicker branches just so you can see it better on the bear, but we'll keep going there. And then that's a fine orientation. I'm going to save that as the low and then add pretty minimal polygons now that we're in the games tree. So just 4 polygons for the middle one, and then really go all out on the end one there. I just want to be able to fold it down the middle some. So that should give us more of a crunch motion. We're gonna pop that in there, and now we've got it going. And the frond is now sitting on this branch. So we don't want this branch to count on our polygon count. So we're gonna go to the skin tab, and we're going to put it to spine only. And these guys are turned all every which way because we haven't done any settings on there. I like to turn gravity off for these guys because they are flat. I'm going to start the boundary all the way at the end of 0. And they look a little small. One thing that we should have done on the bare twig is add anchors. I'm going to go ahead and add these in. These are points where my leaf clusters are going to add onto the tree. You only have to add it to the high. I'm going to seem to have lost the ability to put anchors in here, and I think that's a bug. Okay, I might have to close out of the modeler in order to get that to work, but we'll figure that out in a second. I'm just going to show you what that material looks like that we made with the leaves on it as well, so that we can take a look on it, but I'm going to have to apply it to the same one there, unless I can get it going again. Gonna see if Greg knows. How about... Here, we'll type for a second there. We're gonna make a cutout for this one as well. I'm in point mode now again, and I can go ahead and add those back on there. This one's kind of my main cluster. This is gonna make up the majority of the tree, and so I'm letting it have a little bit more polygons than I will for my very, very tiny one or for the twigs, because twigs just don't need it as much. I want to make sure that this can always fold and curl properly. And I'm going to straighten the angle up a little bit, even though it's kind of wonky to begin with. That's going to be my low. Might be a little too much for low. I'm going to add another point in there. Medium, and then... we want to get as close to our cutout as we possibly can, because when we cut out something and we have a large gap of space there, the computer doesn't know the difference, and so it costs the same amount. So the closer we can get to the item that we want to cut out is better. Hope that made sense. And our last one there. And we're just going to show you what this looks like by adding it into the front there. That's our main cluster. Now, ideally, we would have these sitting on the bare one. And so we've got a lot of lighting things that we need to set up. As you can see there, if you look at this in... Yeah, so next week we are going to focus on getting the lighting set up exactly how we want it in the cluster before we export the rest of those out. I'm probably going to export out the seasons just so we have them ready to go, and we will do the rest of the shape of the tree. So on this cluster file, I've turned the leaves back on for you. We want to do some editing to the light controls that are found in skin. And we're going to be working down here to get these exactly right for what we want to do on the tree before we get them out, and then fix the PBR. And then the great thing about this is because I have this set up from last week, or if you bought a cinema tree and did the exact same thing, the seasons are already on here. So you just need to do 4 exports, or 3, or if you want some more transitions, that's fine too, to get those out. So we will start back from the next week. And I don't think I can turn my camera back on or I'll just wreck this whole stream, but it's been great. Thank you for everybody that chimed in and stayed and asked questions. And we hope this is fun, but we're having fun with it and we hope to keep it going. So we will see you next Thursday.